It looks like we might be.
Nice.
Hello?
Hey guys, welcome to the nice race of Illusion of Gaia between the Hulk and SolarCell. Will be a good show. Two very
Don't mean
nice
to
rounds.
hype you guys up unreasonably, but the last time these two raced, the Hulk set the current world record.
That is true. And I think they're about to start. I saw a timer going off. Falsely, I think. They should start very soon though. So what else can we say about this game? Well, it's an action-adventure made by Quintet. I don't know about the year right now. Something about 94 or so, 96?
I think 93 in Japan, 94 everywhere else.
Yeah, something like that. And it's a pretty simple game. It's the speedrun is actually pretty hard, but casually it's not too hard. It's basically like we will go further into the details when we are there, but it's a typical action adventure. You move with the character around. You can hit you can swing with your weapon, and you get some abilities on the way, which will be very useful. But more about it when we get it. But interesting to say definitely is that it is a very story-wise a very complicated game. Oh, they start actually.
Here we go.
So we are Will. Like the text boxes in this game are very fast, so like this is actually pretty slow for the text boxes. We will see later a bit. And there we saw a good example of how fast text boxes are actually in this game later. So what makes this game actually pretty hard to run is that you have to double tap in order to run. Like normally you can just walk, and you have to tap into twice in the same direction in order for Will to run. And I tell you, this goes in your finger after a while.
Yeah, very much starts to hurt after a bit. You also have to account for the fact that Will doesn't actually stop when you let go of the button.
Exactly.
So all of your turns have to be premeditated.
So now about the story, we're a little boy called Will from the town of South Cape. A year ago, he went on an adventure with his father and some other guys, and they entered the famous Tower of Babel. But something very mysterious happened, and his father is missing since then, and he got mysteriously out of it, like he doesn't even remember how it happened, and was suddenly back in South Cape. I said it was a year ago, and now things start to happen because the little princess of Edward Castle ran away from the castle and decided to visit our house. But well, the soldiers come, and they're taking her back. And now they have to decide what to do. Do we go after
snail pie?
So next day, a letter arrives actually from the castle, asking Will to come by and bring an old ring from his father to the king. He doesn't even have the ring right now, but he still says, "Yeah, let's go and visit the castle and at least ask the king why he needs the ring or what he wants to do with him."
It's a very innocent call, I'm sure. Nothing's gonna happen in the castle. Like, the king's not evil or anything, right?
No, it will be a good journey. At least he gets out of his hometown a bit for a new little adventure.
Yeah, go out and see the world.
Exactly. So did you see the exit time of the runners?
Oh, I missed it actually.
I missed it as well.
Just while you're talking to the guard, mentioned about the world map. Movement on there is automated. All you can do is select destinations occasionally. Sometimes you can't even do that. And then the only way to make it go faster is to hold start, which prevents the zoom in from happening. It's a free, like, 5 or 6 seconds time save every time you enter any place.
We should introduce ourselves.
Oh.
Please start. Ladies first.
So, I guess, well, everyone's in jail. My name is Fee. I run this game and do so rather poorly.
And my name is Zeal. I started to pick up the any-person run somewhat recently. Happy to commentate for you.
You're already 3rd place.
I'm already 3rd place. So here in prison, it's actually full of triggers. It's one of those situations where the game wants you to spend some time to figure out what you actually have to do and speak with coroners and different things. So in the speedrun, we of course know that the triggers we have to trigger in order for the story to advance. But even in the speedrun, it's a pretty quiet place. You have to wait a bit until things advance, but finally, Hamlet, the little pet pig from Kara, the princess, sends us the key, or brings us the key that lets us out of the cell, and there we enter already the first dungeon, the underground tunnel. So, what you would learn here from the other cells normally, from a soldier and I think a skeleton that was in the right cell, is that when you kill all the enemies in the screen, a little buff appears. Like you have HP. Your stats are HP, strength, defense. Well, that's it, right? HP, strength, and defense.
Those are the 3. And you'll notice the 2 runners are not really killing anything, so they're not picking up any buffs at all.
Exactly. So the problem about this run is basically that you're really, really under-leveled after a while. The good thing is that every time you kill a boss, a major boss, you will get immediately all buffs you missed. Like, actually, if you manage to go through the game and kill the next boss, you don't have to pick up any buffs on the way, because you will get them anyway. And that is actually why the speedrun works as it works. But even like that, especially later parts in the game get really, really hard, especially when there's like 2 or 3 dungeons in between bosses where you don't pick up any buffs.
It gets really nasty. Once you get to the pyramid near the end of the game, it's... everything pretty much just 2-shots you, because you're so behind on levels.
So what else? So what Hulk right now did there? Like Sosa will probably also do it in a second. Not really. He kills it right away. You want to get rid of that bat down there on the left side. Because he will transform now into the Dark Knight Frieden. That is the first transformation in the game we will encounter. Very late in the game, we will get a second one. The advantages of Frieden are that he deals more damage than Will, at least to bosses, and he has a longer reach. His weapon has a longer reach than Will. So without, like, you see Soulside here go to the right and hitting that switch, That switch is only hittable by Freedom. Will could not do it.
You also see them running through those little spike balls via a mechanic that's called iframe dashing. And the idea behind that is, like I mentioned before, when you release a directional button, you don't actually stop moving for a couple frames, which allows you to attack and then repress the directional button and continue your run. But when you hit an enemy, it loses its hurt box temporarily while it's hit stunned, which means that if you are fast enough, you can release like the right button, hit attack, swing your sword, hit it again, then run through the enemy before it can hurt you anymore.
Exactly. That is used very often in the run, actually. Also, Will has the version they use with Freedom is only usable by Freedom and later Shadow, the second transformation. Will also has a version of iframe dashing, but it doesn't work in the same direction. You can, though, hit an enemy and then switch to one of the other 3 major directions. So Will gets the iframes as well.
Yeah, it's a bit trickier to set up, because if you hit the same directional button after Will attacks, he'll do his jump slash, which has a lot of other uses, but running through enemies is not one of them. He has an underlying tendency to bounce backwards. Really good for boss fights, not so good for speed.
Exactly, yeah. Like Will's standard attacks, as Fee already said, he has a normal attack and the jump slash. The jump slash is an extension of the normal attack. When you press into the same direction you did your hit, he will go for the jump slash automatically.
Oh my gosh, was that a 954 exit for the Hulk?
954, was it?
Yes!
That was really good, yeah. Like everything sub 10 is really solid, actually. And the 54 is even more impressive. But he's not a world record holder for nothing. He knows this game. I think, actually, Illusion of Gaia is one of the oldest speedruns of Hulk. And he always made sure that he keeps his world record in this game. So now that we escaped the prison and decided to actually take Karen with us, also a little blue-haired girl named Lily joins our party. She was the one that showed us the way out of Edward's castle. And now it appears that King Edward, the father of Kara, is after something actually bigger than we thought, because he even sends the Jackal, a somewhat assassin or hunter, after Will's house and his parents, or like his grandparents for that matter, to find the ring Will should have brought to him, but he couldn't because he didn't have it. So what we do right now is Lily took us to Eatery Village to flee that Jackal. And we were concerned about our grandparents, but as you see right now on solarcell's screen, no reason, because they escaped early enough from the Jackal to not get caught by him. And now, actually in this cell, we learned that our father can speak with us, like the one that is missed. And he wants us to find the 6 mysterious statues that are scattered around the world in ruins. And the first tracks should be found here in Eatery Village. And what we actually skip here also is a very interesting conversation with the elder of Eatery Village. We, for example, learn that Will's mother was one of the tribe of Eatery Village. Like the tribe here of this town, it's a very mysterious tribe. Some of them apparently can transform into flowers, and they can use magic, and also did so to hide their village, like the barrier that hides Eatery Village, and that could only be broken by Will's melody, or Lowell's melody. was made by Will's mother. And normally you would here encounter the ghost of the elder of Eatery Village that tells you that in order to find the next mystic statue, you have to bring the two little statues, Incan statue, right? Incan statue A and B.
Yeah, these are the Inca ruins, so corresponding statues to get in.
So and now Halkia enters the Moon Tribe challenge. Pretty hard at first, like it looks pretty easy, but these worms can give you different patterns. And it looks probably a bit easier than it actually is. Like Halkia, oh,
that one got away.
Still not so bad. 7 can be better, but still pretty fine. Oh, Solar has some problems here. One worm got really badly there.
He's okay.
But he got it, nice. So now we have Incan statue B and A, both, so we can go to the Incan ruins actually to use them. Of course, Kara had to wait in Eatery Village because that's too dangerous for her. But as we know, Kara, she can't wait, so she followed Will and Lily into the Inca ruins. But Lily promised that she will wait for Will here with Kara, so we actually have to enter ourselves, which is basically the second dungeon.
You see Hulk and Solar entering that first room there, and taking out that little spinny head Majigger thing there. Pretty much only do that because in a couple seconds you'll be back in that room and kind of stuck for a minute as some animations go by, and if you don't kill that specific head, it will shoot knives at you, which will come at an angle that will hit you in the only place you can be standing.
Right. Also, I think we didn't explain orb glitching or orb skipping.
No, I think we've skipped over that so far.
Yeah, like some enemies in this game, when you kill them, they release a orb with a yellow core that will break a barrier for you. It's always the same monster, so you know which one you have to kill. And while this orb is on the screen, you can actually open and close your menu so that the barrier is immediately destroyed and you don't have actually for the animation to go off. Like Hulk will do it here. He will actually do a sequence break here. He makes extended slashes with Will, like slash while running. And he opens the menu to get rid of that barrier that blocks the little slide. Normally you would have to go past the little hat and go all the way to the left and transform into Frieden and destroy the hat with Frieden's longer range. So that's the first little sequence break we do in the run. Which saves, I would say, like 30 seconds, maybe even a bit more.
I'm not really sure. I've never actually timed the casual route through, but it's pretty significant. Oh, uh-oh.
Oh, Hulk has some problems with, yeah, those when you're a bit slow in the first half of the room, you have a good chance that these blobs here will spawn in you. Because a lot of the rooms in this run are a bit cycle-based. And if you're too slow, then bad things can happen or you can miss cycles.
There's another small section of this dungeon that both of our runners have skipped at this point that would get you the Melody of the Wind, which is only used in this dungeon. You play it, it lights up that tile, so you know which one to stand on to trigger the door opening up. But since we already know which tile it is, we just go and stand on it and skip that whole thing, and that's another, I guess you'd call it a sequence break, but it's really more of a reward for playing the game more than once.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that casually as well. It's you don't have to do anything that is not considered legit by the game. It's just if you replay this game, you have some chance to save time here. by knowledge. Knowledge is power. So, and now Hulk entering the first boss here, Castos. It's not a very hard boss. First you have to get rid of his hands. Each take 5 hits from Frieden. Then shortly after, Castos will open his eyes shortly and gets vulnerable for a few seconds. You can actually manage to... Hulk unfortunately didn't get the right RNG, but if you get the right RNG with the fireballs flying around the room, you can attempt to do a one-cycle Castos, which means on the first opening before a second cycle of hands appears, killing him, which is really, really hard. It means about 16 out of 20 frame-perfect inputs at least, and it involves some luck with the right positions of the fireballs, and since it's not always the same moment when Castos gets vulnerable, you have to have a little bit of luck with at what point of your hit Castos actually gets vulnerable. But yeah, very nice fight of both of them, from both of them. As I said, it's not a very hard fight.
A 50-story plummet down into a ship made of gold, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Now they find the legendary golden ship from the Incans.
The pretty cool thing about this game is how so much of the dungeons and storyline is based around either real-world locations or real-world mythology.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of places that they go you might recognize from social studies class.
Did Solo speak with the Queen? It looked like... Oh yeah, he did, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
It looked like he spoke with the maid only on the right side. Oh, Hulk did it, really. Look at this guy. Look at this guy showing off. Like, that is...
I thought he didn't de-rest, what the heck?
That is actually pixel perfect. You have to stand on a specific pixel with Will, speak to him, and right after the first text box you have to press down and jump off the ledge while speaking to him.
And that skips this little light-up cutscene thing you're seeing on Solar's.
Yeah, it doesn't really skip it, but it plays
yeah, because you're falling while that happens, so it kind of...
So it saves a little bit of time, yeah.
While we were describing that, the ship turned to rotten wood and everybody died. I'm not really sure what gives there, but that'll teach you to pay attention to your ships, I guess. Now our best friend, Seth, gets eaten by a fish. And the ship explodes. Leaving us stranded on a raft, which is every speedrunner's favorite part of this game, because there's very little you can do here. There's a couple of triggers you need to hit to get each thing to advance. This day 2, you need to hit a fish one time, and then sit here and wait for like 43 seconds?
About that, probably. It takes a while, yes. You have to go through 5 days, basically. Some of them are harder, some of them are easier. The first day basically wants you to speak with Kara twice and then eat the yummy roasted leg of yak thing.
Farewell, best item in the game.
On the second day you have to hit the fish, as Fee already said. On the third day here on Hulk's side, you have to speak with Kara, then wait for the jar. From the left side, speak to the jar and speak twice to Kara again. What about the pig? The pig was left behind in the castle, unfortunately. But it's not the last time we see the pig. No worries. So on this is one of the more important days. You have to fill up your HP to full in order to trigger the next text with Kara. In order to fill our HP up more quickly, we use a herb we loot in the Incan ruins. And that's the big RNG part here from the raft experience here, because the fish have no fixed cycles. They can appear randomly, sometimes even 3 at a time, sometimes no fish. So you can lose quite a lot of time here if you're a bit unlucky. And after this work with Kara, you have to hit 1 more fish to trigger the next day. The next day is just cutscenes, and the last day, or the second to last day, Hulk is here, is speaking to Kara, then wait a bit for the sharks to cycle a bit around.
If you get to that text very, very quickly, you can skip the shark at the top of the screen swimming across the left, which saves a handful of seconds. Not a big deal. And then the final day, you talk to Kara, get scurvy, and die.
So, and now we're at the Diamond Coast. We are separated from all our friends. Fortunately, all our friends are suddenly here in the next town, Freya. But we don't talk to any one of them. We don't need to.
Those guys are jerks anyway. All they ever did is make us drag statues with a flute and play card games.
So in that town here, there are a few triggers, of course, to trigger the next dungeon. That's basically how this game works, how the speedrun works. We visit the next big town, do the necessary triggers to unlock the next dungeon, then do the dungeon. Repeat that a couple times, and you find yourself hopefully having a decent time at the end. We also there are 2 trash cans. We can pick up an herb and an HP crystal, which will be very useful later. The run doesn't pick up many herbs, but it picks up a total of 3 safety herbs. That cost actually almost nothing.
They're very convenient to get and can definitely save your bacon in a tough spot, which there are several choke points in the game where herbs are invaluable. So it's highly worth the 11 total seconds it takes to pick them up.
And Hulk is in the next dungeon already, the Diamond Mines. It's, in my opinion at least, the first really hard dungeon. Where
Absolutely.
Where you actually have a decent chance of dying even. The first 2 dungeons have, especially the first one, have a good chance that you lose a lot of time, because it consists of many early cycles and tight enemy placement. But in the Diamond Mines here, everything comes together. Tight cycles, tight enemy placement, and the enemies even deal damage suddenly.
There's actually a safety route for this game where you pick up 5 red jewels along the way here so that you can get a bonus defense from the jeweler gem, which really helps not die here, but it's slower, so nobody's doing it.
Yeah, generally. Everyone who says who want to start learning this game is highly recommended to pick up these 5 red jewels, because it not only gives you an extra herb, it also gives you an extra defense.
I believe that route was created by Krawick.
Right. And that extra defense is worth a lot, because it joins you along the whole run and basically makes every enemy that hits you deal 1 less damage, which sums really up throughout the run.
Oh, what a jerk, Beholder. Oh, right. Well, Solar here is having a little bit of trouble initiating these slope jumps. We should actually talk about slope jumps.
Oh no, we didn't, I think, yeah.
So if you run up a ramp, in the first couple of pixels of ramp movement, then initiate a jump slash. You will halt your momentum on a ramp, which means that you are considered stopped and then at the top of the ramp by the game, so you immediately regain full running down a hill speed, which enables you to get back up the other side of a ramp. It's used a couple times in the run, and it just saves you from having to run across a couple different rooms here and there. Unless you skip a big part of the next upcoming dungeon. Assuming we survive this one.
Yeah, so everything we did here was just to transform Frieden, and we got a new power for him. It's the Dark Friar, which, just like Will, Frieden can now hold the attack button, load up his power, and when he releases the button, he releases a ball of energy that travels through the screen and damages every enemy that touches it. And that lets Frieden actually be the only character, or like the only transformation in this game that lets you hit far away enemies. Everyone else only has melee attacks. And now, since we got the elevator key from the little slave or laborer, as the game calls them.
There are no slaves in this game.
There are no slaves in this game. We have the elevator key so we can do a little death warp to be at the start of the dungeon again, which is really convenient. Like, you can see on the top of the screen there are like 2 zeros and a 0 and a 14 on the solar screen. That's actually dark power, DP. Every time you kill an enemy, it has a good chance of dropping one of those silverish red crystals or jewels. When you collect 100 of them, you get 1 life, basically, like one on the left side with a little heart. How lovely. And that life makes you, when you die, you spawn, instead of the start of the dungeon, you spawn at the start of the current room, with all enemies still being dead. But when you die with no lives left, you start at the start of the dungeon and all enemies respawn. So we never abuse dark power in the speedrun. It's always very convenient for us to spawn at the start of the dungeon when we do a death warp.
Not to mention it takes forever to get that many orbs.
Exactly, we would have actually to farm it. Like we don't hold back at all to kill any enemies we want, and still do not even manage to get close to the 100 for life. So Hulk already got it. Solar Cell is already in the hardest room of the dungeon, as people call it. It's a little maze full of enemies, and of course you want to be casually. It's not a very hard room, but in a speedrun you want to be as fast as possible. Also, if you want to be an advanced speedrunner of this game, you of course want to take a controllable amount of damage in exactly that room, so you have a quicker death warp later. Oh, Solar Cells will be close a bit. He will have to go right around to not die here, actually.
Oh jeez, please don't die. Okay.
He did it.
Phew.
So Hulk just got and Solar Cell will get now the melody of
the memory melody, so called because you play it once and then forget it.
Because the story is here, like our friend Lance lost his memory after we fell off the ship. But we don't actually care. What we care about is that we wanna free the 3 slaves that we encountered in Freya. Because we actually freed our friend Eric, and Eric told us that the 3 slaves from the slave market were taken to the diamond mines. But luckily, one of the slaves, coincidentally, also had a melody that solves the problem with Lance's memory. So lucky for us, Lance got his memory back, and now everyone feels very smooth and comfy. Eric even feels like he's back in the womb.
Way to make it weird, Eric.
So now that everyone is happy, slaves are free, not really free, but free-ish free.
Like a couple of them at least.
A couple of them at least. And Lance got his memory back. We can continue our journey, and well, as well, very, very convenient. Just a little jump away is Will's cousin, Neil, an inventor.
I would go so far as to say the premier inventor across the entire planet. And just look at the list of inventions. He invented the camera, the telescope, the compressed air tank, and the airplane. Also the parachute. Which has no relevance whatsoever, but, you know, good for him.
It's one of the hardest... It's one of the hardest screens, at least for me, in the whole game.
Oh, that screen's impossible.
Yeah, because you have to mesh through so many text boxes first, and you have to speak with the camera, the telescope, the tank, and the wing.
I see chat noticed that Solar initiated the super advanced resetting your timer to get a head strat. He's now on world record pace.
So now, story-wise, Neil tells us that he has a clue where the next mystic statue might be, and we visit the Nazca lines, where we find out that the stones on the lines are perfectly lined up with the star sign Cygnus, and one extra star, one extra rock lies there on the condor's left foot. So we go there to the left foot to find out what it's about, or rather, one stone is missing on the left foot. And suddenly something very huge comes down. That's why the sky darkens, and Will gets poured away. Whoop. And Kara's like,
everybody remembers the Nazca lines in the sand in the desert and their accompanying airship. Famous historical artifact. And the most fun dungeon in the game.
Yeah, it's a reference of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And this dungeon has a light side and a dark side. Basically, the light side and the dark side have both the same enemies, just the dark side has stronger versions of the enemies. And it's usually a direct mirrored segment. Like the dungeon is divided into 4 segments, into 4 rooms, basically. And every room is a little dungeon in itself that needs you to find the way through and get the first crystal, or like the crystal ball of that room, as Hulk just got. Basically, how the speedrun works is, we get through the room, and after we got the crystal ball, we immediately death warp in every room except one. To get to the start of the dungeon again, into the center room, put in the crystal ball and go to the next room. Except room 3. In room 3, I also found the Croig, a nice little strat that saves like a second or so. Is that we can already there transform into the Dark Knight Frieden and run out of the room. So we are already Frieden when we enter the 4th room. Also, arguably, room 2 is the hardest room of the dungeon. I think most people would agree, especially because of the ending.
Yeah, because you want to I mean, ideally you'd like your health to be pretty low entering this last room, but there's a lot of stuff in here that can just snack the heck out of you and kill you right before you want to. It's also the only room in the game you can softlock in. If you trigger this chest before the explosion finishes playing, then the game tries to load the fanfare for the game, but doesn't know what it's doing because it's already unloading the barrier sprite. So since it's doing those two things that are, I guess, in the same part of active memory or something like that, it just freaks out and stops.
Exactly. And Hulk here set up the death warp really nicely. He loots.
He didn't have to go out of his way to find an enemy strong enough to kill him.
That's actually exactly how you want to do how we want to do it. You wanna kill the robot, the red robot, at ideally like 2 to 4 HP, so you can get still a couple hits before opening the chest and then immediately die to one of those fireballs. Also, Hulk, you see here doing these little ledge jumps, little slide jumps. This room, this is a really big sequence break that is not intended by the game. Normally, you would have to go through the whole room. Like, this probably saves like a minute or more.
Yeah, it's a whole big maze sequence you're supposed to go through to get to the top of that ramp to break some statues and run down both ramps. You can just jump up a couple when you're done.
Right. Also, there is a little sequence break. You can with a nicely timed jump slash, you can activate the little button there that puts down those little packs on the light sides, so you can transform here already into Frieden. So you don't have to do it in room 4. In room 4 it would take a long time. Like back then when I ran 100%, we still had to do that. And I think actually I never looked into the new route, but I think we would still have to do it in 100% since we would have to pick up a red jewel in room 3. Not sure though. So solarcell actually not too far behind Hulk here. Solarcell just entered room 4. Hulk just entered room 4. Solarcell is about to transform into Frieden.
That little bit of movement Hulk just did is really stressful, I find. You've got It's not particularly complicated, you just need to have a sword bonk you down so you don't jump off that ledge, but the cost for nudging the down button in your controller is very high. Some people, just me probably, have lost runs to that.
I think we all lost at least a couple runs to that.
Then we get our first boss fight with Will, which is the Viper.
Right, the Viper fight is pretty much scripted. He will always do the same actions in the same order, but there are little differences. Like he can when he comes down, he can be higher or lower. Like he was really high for Hulk right now. And the feathers he shoots can be either to the left or right side, and the 4 feathers he shoots, they can go in different angles. And it was a really good fight from Hulk.
Yeah, it was very good. Optimally, you can get him to die in 2 full cycles, but 2 and like a quarter is the general good fight.
Like the perfect fight would be that he dies on the second dive, where he does this big crystal beam. But Hulk killed him right after, which is still very nice. Also, the 2 cycle is actually RNG dependent. Like Hulk was probably even unable to get it since on that one dive.
Yeah, because Viper showed up really high, so I don't think he could get the last couple hits in.
Right. SolarCell is indeed really good at this game. Both are. This is a very strong run. Very strong race.
Fun bit of trivia there on Hulk's screen. It turns out every single one of those parachutes are coded as being Will. So you're capable of charging like a Psycho Dash or whatever on that screen, and it causes all the parachutes to glow.
SolarCell also having height issues with Viper. Oh, he got a hit there. He has to be careful a bit. Oh, that was close.
Well, that was scary.
He got it. Nice. Yeah, it's Viper. If you practice him enough, he's normally not really an issue. But he's always scary when you mess something up. It's very costly since you can only take one single hit. The second one will kill you. It's not the biggest time loss possible. It basically only uses you like 20 to 30 seconds depending on where in the fight you died. Because he will spawn right outside the arena. And you can just go in and try it again. So now Neil saved us from the falling down Sky Garden. And caught us with the plane. But the plane also crashes. It's always that thing, you know, with the really nice independent inventors that seem to be like geniuses, but then the inventions explode. That's Neil. So the plane crashes and we're suddenly in an undersea palace, where we find out that there are coffins, and in one of the coffins we get a purification stone. And as soon as we put the purification stone into that demon-soaked well on the bottom of the dungeon, every monster in the dungeon suddenly transforms into a person. And when we speak to the persons, we learn that the palace here is owned by a couple of vampires, like a female and a male vampire, and they kidnap persons to make them slaves. Oh, I'm sorry, laborers for them. And luckily, one of those laborers managed to steal the key to the Seaside Palace from the female vampire. So we actually can use it to get away from here. And then we enter probably one of the hardest dungeons in the game, Moo, and one of the longest dungeons in the game. Second longest, I think.
And one of the most aggravating dungeons in the game.
Yeah, it's a really hard dungeon. There's a lot of circle-based things, a lot of tricky movements and little skips. So yeah, I don't know if Hulk already adapted the new strat here. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like he did.
For it.
Yeah. The jump attack through the bumper and the golem. This is really neat. I'm not sure who found it. I think it was Kroik, but I think Kroik said it was not him. Not sure. But thanks to whoever it was.
I think it might have actually been the Hulk.
It might be the Hulk. Not sure.
It's a fun little time-saving strat, because if you press yourself up against that wall and then initiate a jump slash, you can get over the bubble and get bounced by it. Otherwise, you have to, I think Solar's probably going to do the original strat, where you have to slowly snag it down the hallway so it lets you through.
Right.
I'm not sure what the time save is for that, but it's really neat looking. I like that strat a lot.
Oh, it's a bit, probably like, I would say 2 to 3 seconds.
Sounds about right.
So in the dungeon we have to find two of those statues of hope. Hulk just found the first one. They're basically set up so that there are those really big face statues, and you have to look where the face statue is facing, and look for another one, and where
their gazes intersect.
Where their gazes, right.
That shows you where the item is in another room. Or, well, I guess there's statues in those rooms too, but whatever. Yeah. I'm dumb. I'm sorry. Then you can use the Statue of Hope to stop me if you've heard this before in a water dungeon, lower the level of the water, and enable you to progress across more area. In a unique and clever twist. No game has ever thought to try before or since.
Yeah, so we also do a little sequence break here. Normally the game wants you to transform into Frieden here on the left side. We say will though. Because we actually, like in the Incan ruins, we can do a little trick or like basically just be fast. Oh, I'm really happy to see that strat from Hulk.
Is that one yours?
That one was mine, yeah.
It's a good strat, thank you for making it.
So here normally the game wants you to be Frieden, but we can make it... I actually does the game want you to be Frieden?
I'm not sure.
It might not even be necessary.
You can transform into Frieden, but I don't think it's necessary.
You can, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I actually think Frieden is pretty optional in this dungeon. Is he?
He's just there to make it easier if a player is struggling, because you can dark fire everything and not have to deal with all the jellies and flashers floating around you and teleporting and jumping and being jerks.
Yeah, the second part of this room, like until here, you can be Frieden if you want to, but until from now on, you have to be Will. Like if you would be Frieden, like now you learn the Psycho Slider, and in order to learn the Psycho Slider, the game would automatically transform you back from into Will. And from this point on, you actually have to be Will because there are these little holes you have to slide through with Will. And as Gaia says you here, only young Will can use the Psycho Slider. Oh, that was a very nice jump attack from solarcell. To avoid the projectile from the wizard.
Yeah, that was like... You are in full invincibility frames whenever you are doing any of Will's movement attacks, so if you're doing a slide or a dash or his jump slash, then you cannot be damaged.
And the Hulk really looks into good shape. Oh, that's also a really good position here. Oh, he got ambushed though, which is not a problem. He wants to die very shortly anyway. He still looks in very good shape. He actually has perfect HP. Yeah, he has 6 HP. He could have, he could have taken, he got a hit here. Like those little slimes, those blue ones, they deal exactly 5 damage. And those spikes coming out of the ground, they deal 1 damage. So you can take 1 from the spikes and then 1 hit from the blob and perfect.
Really good first half of the dungeon from the Hulk. So we're not very far behind. It's still anybody's race, by the way, especially because of the thing about to happen.
Yeah, because shortly is upcoming the hardest boss in the game. Always thrilling to see the good vampires. And one of the main reasons we pick up herbs until this point. So we have them at the vampires. Because they're not only very execution heavy and decision heavy, they can also give you a hard time with RNG. And you have to make decisions very quickly. So we got all the statues of hope, but now we have to enter the Sanctuary of Moon. And in order to do that, we need the Ramas statues. There are 2 of them. And Hulk just got the first one. Also hit a little trick here. I have no idea how that is called. It makes you invincible. Like as soon, like there are those chests that play the fanfare of finding a key item, and if you slide or jump attack into that chest, you keep, as long as you don't leave this room or do another ability with Will, you will keep those invincibility frames. So you can see here, for example, Hulk did it again. He slid it into the chest, and now he can run out of the room here completely invincible. He will run through enemies, like he just did there with the golem, and just here through the blob.
Yeah, the game knows you were invincible because you were doing an attack, and then it loads the fanfare for the item and forgets to check when you get out of that whether or not you actually exited your invincibility move.
Right. It only lasts until you have a screen transition, though. Like, as soon as he went into another room, he's resetted into the normal hitbox status.
It'd be real nice if that didn't check there, but it does.
So, speaking of two souls, those souls are actually the souls of people who lived in Mu. And couldn't escape the island. And now Hulk is entering the vampires.
Here we go. First big gate of the run.
Let's see what he gets.
Two vampires float around the room, kind of spitting fireballs at you, and then responding to being hit by creating those little shields of fireballs. And
right.
The optimal... They don't have hitboxes, so you can kind of stand in them, so that part's nice. And then your goal is to time your jump slashes to be dodging over all of their counterattacks, and then...
You had a very nice female vampire already.
Yeah, she died lightning fast, jeez.
And basically your end time, like you have that little bomb in the center. We can judge the fight according to the timer left on the bomb. Basically 85 is somewhat average. If you manage to get a 9x, that's already really, really good. And if you get some bad RNG, like a 7x, well, that happens here. Hulk gets an 84, which is really average. That was a really solid fight. It was mostly due to bad RNG on the male patterns.
The really big benefit there is he didn't need to use any herbs. So he's
right, he didn't use any herbs. Yeah, that's really.
He's got lots of safety for the rest of the game now. See what kind of luck solarcell has. He's also about to enter the fight. Good luck, buddy. Guess fun vampire trivia for those of you at home wondering. If you kill the vampires both successfully and then the timer on the bomb runs out, it turns out it is a dud. So it doesn't matter that you could or couldn't disarm it. However, if for some inexplicable reason you are still fighting them when the timer runs out, you will die.
Oh,
okay,
Solar is the
Solar. Making me nervous.
The female should die now. And the male vampire is not... If you take it safe, the male vampire will usually not be a problem. Oh, Solar.
Oh boy.
They'll make it happen. Yeah,
oh no!
Oh, that is really bad. Now he has to fight the fight without the advantage of the opening, and he has not a single herb left. So you have to... and he got 3 fast hits already in. 2 fast hits already in.
Guess we have some bonus time to talk about vampires.
That was very
female
unfortunate.
Vampire only moves in the 4 cardinal directions and only 1 ouch square at a time, but her shield does more damage than the male's. Whereas he can go anywhere at any time, but does less damage. Though he does get 2 shields to make up for it.
Yeah.
This is an extremely hard fight.
Even for experienced runners, fighting the fight without using a single herb is something uncommon.
Oh boy.
So from this point on, basically, Solar Cell dying is not due to him being bad, but it's just a very, very hard fight, and you will take damage if you want to fight them. Like you basically, if you hit them, they produce their shield, and there is some RNG to it, like especially on the cycle of the female when she opens and closes her shields. There is some RNG involved, and if you're a bit unlucky a couple times, you just get free hits in, and you can't do anything about it. Meanwhile, Hulk in the next dungeon already, the Angel Village. The problem here is that after we went through the tunnel to get outside of Mu, we reached the next continent, and the Angel Village, which was basically full of ancestors of Mu, of the citizens of Mu, and they transformed into well, they're called angels. They are vulnerable to sunlight. They would just lose their conscious. Oh, so close!
So close!
We hit away from Solar. Oh, that was unfortunate. And Kara went off to explore the city or the town, and didn't show up anymore. So Will went off and looked for Kara, and he found himself into a secret tunnel of Angel Village, where a famous artist or painter resides. I forgot the name, actually.
I believe his name is Ishtar?
Ishtar, right. And it turns out that he painted Kara, and his paintings are magical. When he paints someone, the person gets sucked into the painting. And after a while, like the painting still has consciousness for a while, but after a while,
it becomes just a painting. So hurry up.
It becomes
Sprinkle
just
some
a
magic
painting.
dust on the person you love and kiss the painting, and they'll turn back to normal.
Right.
But like, turn back to normal. I mean, they'll walk out of the door because they were there the whole time. She's not a painting at all.
Right. Ishtar tells us that he did that to Kara, and he said, you can still save her by solving my riddles. And you basically have to go through a couple of rooms. Like the first room, you have to memorize the whole room. And in the second room, you have to tell the game with the cursor what is the thing that is different from the other room. On the first room, it's a pot. On the second room, it's also pots. On the third room, it's actually the containings of the chest. Like in the first room, there is a herb in it we pick up. I don't know, did Hulk pick it up with 2 herbs left still?
I wasn't looking. I was too busy watching Solar try to beat the vampires.
Yeah, on the third one, it's in the first room, it's a herb. On the second room, it's actually a red jewel. We don't need an 9%, of course. And in the last room, there is nothing wrong with the room, but wind lets Will's hair wiggle around. That's the difference. Solar plays it very safe here. Can't blame him for that now.
He just wants to be done. I don't blame him at all.
No, when he goes up, oh no, buddy.
Oh, they are really being mean to him. This is so painful. I feel it. I have been here. This is really. He is being such a trooper for sticking this out. I would not blame him in the least for forfeiting.
Yeah, if you die to this fight without any herbs left, that's just brutal.
This is one of the most common reset points in the run for anybody.
So meanwhile, on Hulk's side, he is now in the town of Watermere or Watermere, whatever you prefer. What do you say, Fee? Watermere or Watermere?
Here we go again.
And it's Lily's birthday, like the blue-haired girl. And Lance takes the chance and tells Lily how he really feels. Because he loves her. Not knowing what to say, Lily transforms into a dandelion and then takes off with the wind.
I mean, like you do.
What can she do? And well, he actually in the town there is a guy who tells you that in the nearby dungeon in the Great Wall, which is a reference to the Great Wall of China, there lives a bug, and the body fluids of the bug have mysterious powers to. Oh, that was so close from Solar. Have mysterious powers that
can cure amnesia,
cures every disease, right? And actually, Lance found his father here in the town. He was also part of the expedition back then, 1 year ago. And he showed up here in Watamir, lost all his memories, and Lance decided to go to the Great Wall and get some of that body fluid for his father. Also, here you can see Hulk doing those iframe dashes with Will. Basically, he hits up and immediately runs to the left, getting through the archers easily.
Baldonius, it wouldn't help Solar to get the Freedom transformation because the Will version of this fight is actually safer. Because Freedom doesn't have any moves that give him iframes, so he has no means of dodging these things. And they still fly around wherever and shoot things at you, and it gets really hectic and bad.
At least if you don't know how to use it. I think when you're a bit expertised with Freedom and this fight, it's safer than Will. But because Freedom has enough range to hit the vampires from far away, like further than the energy shields reach. But I think if you would go back and transform into Freedom now, not knowing how exactly.
I mean, this is the version of the fight he's practiced. You're probably right.
Yeah, right. But... That's what I mean. Like if he would do new things now, he would probably just die a couple times before he even finds out how Freedom really fights this fight. And every time he would have to go back and transform into Freedom. Like he only has one shot. When he dies, he's Will again.
Oh, Hulk just initiated another sequence break here on the Great Wall by doing a slide to stop himself from jumping across all those ramps. There's a whole sequence here where you're supposed to go and... Jeez, I don't remember what you're actually supposed to do.
Yeah, he has to transform into Freedom to get back in. Like he gets to the far right and has to go through a little puzzle and a few extra rooms to get here where he's right now, where he can form into Freedom. Into Freedom. But since he does that sequence break, he basically just skips a lot of rooms.
You skip some puzzles, you get to immediately transform into Freedom and then go get your...
Exactly, and now he needs Freedom.
Tornado something or other, I don't remember the name of the attack.
And now he needs Freedom in order to kill this archer there, which can only be reached by Freedom's Dark Friar. Because this Dark Friar removes the barrier right on top of Hulk here. But from this point on, you... normally like what he skips is the spin dash. Like you normally would need the spin dash to go back into that room where we sequence broke it.
Right,
So we do the sequence basically the other way around. Normally you have to go past the slides, get the spin dash, and go back, transform into Freedom, kill the archer, and then continue. But we in the run, we get Freedom immediately, get rid of the archer, and then get spin dash. That would be, if you would have herbs, that would have been such a nice fight for Solar. Like oh no, wow, that would have been such a sick fight with herbs.
Yeah, if he had the herbs to tank the hits that he took early on, those patterns were so good. He was gonna get like
you really want
possibly a triple-digit vampire kill. Oh, he's on a good start now. I think this might be it.
Looks good, yeah. Female dies now? Okay, bro. He cannot miss this.
He's got this now.
This is your chance, dude. Male has a lot of HP still, though. Things can happen. So Hulk, meanwhile, on the next boss already, the Sandfanger, which is one of the biggest RNG situations here in the run. He can give you 3 different patterns. He can go vertically up into the air and diving down again, or going wave-like from the left side to the right, or the other way around. And each of those 2 cycles can get you 2 hits in. But he can also stick his head out of the ground and spit rocks or little eggs. We call that egg cycles. And those can actually get you up to 9 hits, I think, in. And so it's good. Nice. Very nice.
Good job. It was an 84 kill too, so not terrible. Oof. Sandfanger being really mean to Hulk.
Yeah, that's the first egg cycle, right?
Yeah, that's the first one.
So average is pretty much 3 egg cycles. This is pretty much average. If you get more, you're pretty lucky. If you get less, you're a bit unlucky. That's the second one for Hulk.
Ooh, that jump.
Yeah, that was nice.
At least he's not getting too many up and downs, and then I went and ruined it.
So Sandfang has 5 HP left, so even if he would get an egg drop now, it would be, yeah, he gets another one. So he basically got 2.5 egg drop. Egg cycle.
Classic Sandfanger. Loves the egg cycle when it won't save you much time.
So now we finally found Lance, and we brought Lily with us. She followed us into the Great Wall, and now Lance wants us to take care of Lily, which is basically just a wrong translation of the Japanese version. What he actually says here is that he asked Will if he would give them a bit of time together, alone. So take off, Will. The couple is talking. And, well, now Lily answers his question about love, and of course, she loves him as well. And Lance feels like 1,000,000 summer days.
The most romantic line in any game ever.
Very nice second room of Solar Cell here, Angel Village. That room is actually not so easy.
Yeah, how those skeletons respond to being hit is a little bit random, so they can get kind of sticky to get around without taking a bunch of damage or losing a bunch of time.
Yeah, so and now we had slaves, of course. Now we have gambling. People in this town of Watermere, they gamble with alcohol. Like they do drinking games, and when it gets dark, they do drinking games with betting on their lives. And of course, Will is an adventurer, so of course he joins in the fun. But unfortunately for his opponent, Will has psychic powers and knows exactly what is the poisoned one. So Will avoids drinking the poisoned one, but the champion will not be disgraced. And still, even though it is the last bowl, last glass, and he knows that the poison is in there, he still drinks it.
Like a
champ. The legend that he is, right? He will take the glorious death. He will not be disgraced. And luckily, his testament says that the opponent he lost to we'll get the 3 crooks, I think, right?
Yeah, the crack horses, like camel kangaroo things.
Yeah, those camel kangaroos. And well, oh yeah, we got 4 actually. Well, like he had 4 and we get 4 and we need 4. That's also very, very nice.
It's super convenient that Lance and Moby decided to ditch you on this exact moment when you run out of mounts.
So now we are in the city of Euro, which is actually the city where Neil's parents live, and we learn that Neil's parents are the CEOs of the biggest company of in the whole world, Rolec. And later, if you would talk to the NPCs here, you actually learn that Rolec and Neil's parents specifically are behind all the slave trading and basically everything that is bad in this world. They are also tightly connected to King Edward. Yeah. And Neil is still happy to see his parents again. And I don't remember really why, but we go off and learn the story of a nice teapot. Like there is a little story where back then women who lost their parents in war, they cried and collected their tears in little teapots. And one of those teapots has become a magical artifact that can reveal the truth or something. And those 2 guys, those 2 weird storytellers, they basically tell us that story, and they want us to go to Mount Crest, to the mountain temple here, and get that teapot. So we don't know why.
It exists or doesn't exist. They're having an argument about whether or not it's real.
Right, and we don't know really why, but we were nice guys, we were asked to do it, so we do it. Get the teapot.
Well, we'll do it, but we won't show it to them.
That's true. They don't need to know, we have better uses for it. So this dungeon here, we just killed a boss, as said earlier. When you kill a boss, you get all the buffs, all the stat upgrades you missed so far between bosses. And since we just killed Sandfanger, and the dungeon here already has very weak hitting enemies in general, we are pretty up to date with our stats, HP, strength, and those enemies hit really weak. So that dungeon is actually pretty easy. It's more like a maze in the speedrun. You have to memorize where you have to go. You have to do little tricks like Hulk here does to save like fragments of a second. And know exactly where you can take damage, because at the end of the dungeon you wanna take a death warp. So you wanna know exactly where to take damage to not take too much or not enough damage. And in order to advance the dungeon, we have to collect those little mushroom drops, because they can be used to let the veins in the dungeon, which are the bridges, grow and make new paths for us.
Finally, looking at Lahulk's menu, it looks like he did pick up the herb in Angel Village. He's got 3 now.
Yeah.
So barring absolute catastrophe, he should be set for the rest of the run.
Yeah, Hulk should have no problems from this point on. Especially given how experienced he is.
Yeah.
Solo on the other side, also of course very skilled runner, but doesn't have any herbs right now. Like he still has one herb right now from Isha's riddles. But will that be enough? Maybe. You can get a couple hits really fast. It can happen faster than you would imagine.
If he wants to, he can sneak a couple herbs from some of these dungeons. But I don't remember the one in this place is, but Angkor Wat's got a really easily accessed one.
Oh yeah, the one before the slide, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also in the Great Wall, he could get one. Like right now. Like on the next room. When he enters the next room before the slide, before he goes down the slides.
Oh yeah, right, that's where it is. It's in that door he just walked past.
Yeah, but he skipped it. Maybe he goes for the one in Angkor Wat. But I think actually this one would be faster as a backup herb. Than Angkor Wat. Because for Angkor Wat you have to go... No, you actually don't have to go around twice, right? Only once.
No, just the one time. It's not too bad.
Yeah, maybe Angkor Wat is actually faster. A little bit. Meanwhile, Hulk getting his teapot. I said the dungeon's not very hard. It's basically HP management a lot, where I can take a hit. Ideally, you want to have so low HP that you just take one hit from the second to last screen and then spawn with the start of the dungeon again. And now with our teapot, we go back to Euro. Still not knowing what to do with that story-wise, we take a shot and go to Neil and his parents and just use it.
We're trying to get that teapot. I want to show it off to some people that we care about. Right.
Like, look, Neil. We have a nice teapot. What do you say about it? Oh, I'm sorry. Your parents are actually ghosts. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
Yeah, it turns out Neil's parents are ghosts. Surprise.
Yeah, they died a long time ago and actually brutally murdered and thrown and buried below the mountain temple. And were replaced by members of the Moon Tribe.
Neil is understandably shaken up by this and asks for a moment to collect himself. And Will, being the understanding, compassionate protagonist that he is, says, "I'm ashamed to see you like this."
One of the best lines, yeah.
I think it's probably the most... yeah, it's up there. It's top 3 at worst.
And look at that! The pet pig. Hamlet, he's back.
Oh boy! I can't wait to see what kind of wonderful pig adventures we're about to go on.
Oh yeah. That pig definitely deserves his own game. Illusion of Gaia. Piglet adventures.
I mean, I'd play it.
So it turns out that Hamlet followed us all the way to Watermere, where he was found by Lily and Lance, which were left behind, or what they wanted to live there now.
Really impressive, because that means that pig crossed the ocean.
Yeah. And was sent there with the Rolex delivery service to Neil, to Euro. And now it's Solarcell's turn for the Sandfanger. He already gets the first X cycle, which is really nice. And already the next one now. So in the Japanese version, this native town here is
Hamlet? Hamlet?
Oh yeah, right. Oh damn. Maybe no side game then.
Hamlet, no!
So it turns out that Will's mother was Hamlet all along. Like, it doesn't really get revealed if Hamlet himself was Neil's mother, or Neil's mother were just living in Hamlet, like her soul. But basically Hamlet, like Neil's mother said, that Hamlet wanted to die to provide food for the villagers. I don't trust that. Maybe she's lying.
Yeah, it seems a little fishy to me, but... Slayer had a pretty good sand finger. I think that was 4x.
Hulk, meanwhile, in the second to last dungeon, if you don't count the boss rush, Angkor Wat, my personal favorite dungeon. Decently long, has a lot of tricky movements and little tricks. Also very nice sequence break, which is somewhat precise to do. Also here in the room where Hulk right now is, he can loot the herb we were talking about. He could, like he won't do it right now because he has 3 already. But the chest he's jumping over right now contains a herb as well. Maybe Solo will go for that.
I think I saw him in chat say he didn't need no stinking herbs, so he's probably just gonna skip it too. Well, if you're listening, I recommend it. Pyramid is a cruel and dangerous place. Okay, he's quite determined, it seems.
So in Hulk, meanwhile, going through the garden section of Angkor Wat, it's very energy heavy, to say the least. Like there are these little bugs, these flying mosquitoes. They randomly flying through the room, and they actually deal 5 damage, I think. Which is quite a lot. If you get a few unlucky hits, you can get into trouble. It's not so bad to get hit by those, because you want to die shortly after anyway, to make a little death warp. And here we have the big sequence break of the dungeon, called the Earthquake Skip. Normally you have to go to the right side here, go through a long corridor and learn...
Frieden's special move, the Earthquaker.
Right. Then what it does is you have to jump from a ledge and ram your sword into the ground. I'm surprised Hulk doesn't go for the hits here. And that will stun all the enemies on the screen for a while. And normally you would need... he goes for that. Normally you would need those stun ability to go past that one golem that doesn't move.
That was some very precisely aimed dark fires and manipulating, not quite the camera angle, but how far it can reach up off the screen. You're able to kill that thing before it can move and become invincible. If you mess it up though, it will just start spinning anyway, and then you need to leave the room and reset. And
here the white flashy room Hulk runs through right now is also a little skip, like it's not mandatory to do. It's not mandatory to do it anyway to get the sunglasses. Normally you can get them by jumping down a ledge and going into the back section of the garden and loot the sunglasses, and you can actually see in that room. When you don't have the sunglasses, it flashes white and it doesn't stop to do that. So you basically have to know where you go. And now we're in the sanctuary of Angkor Wat, where Will gets a vision of the future, and we see the modern world. The cutscene is a bit buggy because we did that little trick with a little zoom skip on the world map. And of course, we also get the reason why we're here, the Gorgon flower that can release petrified people from their petrification.
Oh, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing Frieden, because he's done being used for the rest of the run.
You can still see him as a glorious statue, though.
True.
A couple times, even. So now Hulk has everything he needs, and he makes his way out of the dungeon. Unfortunately, there are a couple checkpoints in the dungeon, so a death warp doesn't bring you at the start of the dungeon here. Just at the start of the first or the last garden, and he has to run back the rest of the way. Taking damage here, like, it doesn't look like he would take any damage from now on, but even if he would, it would not be a problem, because at the start of the next dungeon you have to speak with Gaia in order to get a very important item. And at that opportunity, Gaia also heals you full.
It's nice to go damageless though, because you won't have to go through the healing animation.
That is true.
That was a really clean Angkor Wat.
It was good, yeah. So, back to the natives village. We can heal the petrified villages. Petrified villages. And we're on our way to the next village, the desert village of Dao. It's a very, very short visit. We just go outside, talk with Will, who tells us that something fishy is going on in the pyramids. And that's all we need to know. Let's go to the pyramids.
Also, Neil, being the stand-up guy that he is, has exchanged his family company's slave trade for hot peppers.
Right, exactly. Two dungeons left, basically. Yeah, like this is basically the last dungeon. It has like the size of two dungeons, and basically the boss rush. Then, if you take that as a dungeon, and now we're getting the second transformation right at the end. It's Shadow. There is a mysterious comet coming close to the planet, which causes all the stuff that is happening in the world, basically. Like, if you have a question, why is this happening, why is that happening, the answer is always basically the comet. And now, since Will's dark powers grow really strong, he can now control the light of the comet and transform into a being, basically being the light of the comet, which is Shadow. Also, he got a very nice item from Gaia now called the Aura, which allows Shadow to turn into liquid and flowing down through the walls of the pyramids. And you actually need to do that. Hulk running now through the third room of the pyramids. The pyramids consist of 6 rooms. Every room has one of the hieroglyph stones in it, and you need all 6 in order to solve the puzzle in the center room of the pyramid. And then fight the terrifying mummy queen herself. Very nice room 3 so far. He did not take a herb, right? No, I don't think.
No. He took 1 bit of damage at the very beginning.
Yeah,
very nice. It's just been clean since. Shadow has amazing iframe dashes. His attack is so smooth, and his running animation is just floating, so it's really just good feeling to run through these things and hit these laser orbs and stun them and not take any damage when you don't want to.
Shadow is also the only character where you can buffer attacks. Like when the animation is ongoing of one of Shadow's attacks and you repress and hold the B button, he will do a second attack right after. And you can buffer every next attack already to do frame perfect attacks, which actually like he approaches the Killer 6 right now, which is basically a formation of 6 of those laser orbs. And he mastered them perfectly. They are the bane of some runners' existence.
Yeah, they're hard, because if you don't get in there right away and start hitting them, it is pretty much just trip over, go back to start. They start barraging you with lasers. It's very hard to recover from that, so he did a really good job to just slip in there and start killing them all.
2 rooms more to go for Hulk as Shadow. The pyramid can be separated into two parts. One part with Shadow, the first one, and then after we do 3 rooms with Will. And the Shadow rooms are definitely the harder ones.
They're much more stressful because you have to do them all on one life, since you would transform back into Will when you die. You lose a lot of time.
Like at Will, at the end of every room, we just take a death warp and have full life again.
The other move in Shadow's repertoire that Hulk is making some use of and will make more use of later, especially in the boss rush, is a glitch called the Aura glitch. Very originally named, I know, but still. Where if you launch an attack and then melt into the puddle, every frame that you are touching something, you'll attack them. And it causes you to do outrageous amounts of damage while being invincible. It's nice. I recommend it. It's not hard to trigger either.
And Hulk gets the second Hieroglyph Stone.
One more to go, and then he's done with the Shadow section. The Hulk has an outside chance of breaking his record right now, but it would be very difficult. His PB has a really, really good amount of boss luck in his boss rush and a 3-cycle Gaia.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of nuance to how fast a 3-cycle Gaia is that might enable them to save a little bit more time.
Yeah, technically it's still world record pace. At this point it's not very likely anymore, especially with the low X cycles you get from Sandfanger. It really depends now on RNG.
Yeah, it's difficult but possible. Ooh, is he lined up? Ooh, nice!
Oh, he got a nice, he got the pixel perfect. Little, not skip, but if you line up perfectly with the door, you don't have to wait for Shadow to go into his normal body animation anymore. You can just enter the door perfectly and go into the transition before that. Which saves, I would say, like 3 seconds, maybe.
Somewhere in there, 2.5 maybe.
So now Hulk, finally done with the shadow part of the pyramid, takes a death warp, spawns again at the start of the room with Will, and enters room 6. And now the rooms with Will make very good use of the spin dash. Since the spin dash is very, very fast, and you're fully invincible while being in the whirling animation. And that was the first room with Will. Now he takes a death warp. At the end of every Will room, he takes a death warp to get full HP and a fast exit of the room. And now he enters room 4, Meanwhile, Solar entering the first garden in Angkor Wat. Let's hope he doesn't get stung by that mosquitoes. So here in these rooms, on Hulk's side, you can really see the advantages of the Psycho Dash, of the Spin Dash, where you can just spin through those downcoming ceilings with spikes without worrying. Meanwhile, Solar on the earthquake skip decides to kill the guy, because why not? One more hit. Nice, he got it. Spin to win indeed.
One more in the hieroglyph stone for the Hulk. And he's on to not the most difficult boss in the game, but possibly the most stressful.
Yeah, definitely more difficult than you would think by watching. Like before you run this game yourself and practice Mummy Queen a bit, you would think Mummy Queen looks actually pretty easy. It's just hitting her, avoiding souls, and well, that's it. It's not quite like that. There are a lot of little things to look out for. Oh, Solar having some stress with the flashy room here. He looks good. Yeah, it looks good for him. So, and now, with all the hieroglyph stones and suddenly weird, nice person comes in with Kara. This is actually the Jackal, like the one from the very start of the game that got sent by King Edward to get back his daughter and the ring from Will's father. And he finally caught up with us. And, well, actually, I don't know what he wants to do. He just stands there telling us how bad he and King Edward is. And then our father speaks up and says, "Will, play the flute." And we play the flute. Because we will listen to our father.
Flip so loud.
And suddenly fire. Oh no.
There's a journal entry on the far right side of the pyramid that mentions that making loud noises in this room will set off traps.
Kara.
Hey, props to Diffs this game for that guy on fire sprite. That thing looks so cool.
So now you have to solve the puzzle of the riddle of the pyramids, which is basically set the hieroglyph stones in the correct order into those plates. Normally in DAO you can talk to one of those vendors, to those merchants, and they give you an old diary of your father where the right combination is literally written in it. So let's see what kind of nice mummy queen we get.
First portion of this fight is not quite scripted, but basically always the same. You'll hit her and she'll split into those little ghosts and spread out across the room. Then she'll reconstitute herself and try to launch one of a couple different attacks, but as long as you're lined up to hit her, you can just knock her back into ghost before she can do anything. When she reaches half health, that's when the RNG begins.
Right, the first half of the battle here, what Hulk does is basically controlling the position of the Mummy Queen with your own movement. Because how the souls move and where the Mummy Queen puts herself together is influenced by your positioning and your movement. So right positioning, right movement is the key here. And now the second phase begins, where she has a high chance of becoming one of those soul circles. You have to hit the right soul, which is always at the start, the bottom left one. This looks... he has one bad cycle. He still needs 2 more hits. And you just hope for exactly that to hit. Okay, nice. 1 bad cycle. Not too bad, really good. Really good Mummy Queen.
Thank you, Hulk, for taking that 1 hit to show how dangerous she actually is.
Yeah, she deals like 14 damage or so. It's a huge amount of damage.
We're so underleveled at this point, it's just a nightmare. She's actually meant to be more difficult in the refight, but because we just gained all those stats from beating her, she winds up being much, much, much simpler.
Yeah, basically in a casual playthrough where you get all the power-ups as early as possible, the refight is very annoying because it's basically the same fight, just a little bit easier because the arena is a bit bigger, because you don't get any more power-ups after Mummy Queen casually. So you fight the first Mummy Queen with Shadow and all the power-ups, and then in the boss rush you fight her right away again. But now we're on the way to Babel. Like, Neil has built a new plane and brought it with him, of course. The legendary inventor he is. And Will's father tells him that it is time, after he got the 5th mystery statue, to visit the Tower of Babel again. And hopefully this time not a disaster happens. Like, remember, 1 year ago, or like now I think even 2 years ago, Will and his father got separated in the Tower of Babel. This is also, like, the Tower of Babel is also the place where Will got his flute, like the weapon. If you didn't realize it by now, the purple stick he's attacking with is actually his flute. And Hulk just runs past the altar where they found the flute.
Is that where the final ritual is?
This is where the final ritual is.
Not that it matters for this, but...
So now we bonk into that energy barrier, and suddenly the ring pops out of our flute. The ring King Edward was after. It was all the time in our flute. Will mistook it for just a little decoration. And with the newfound crystal ring, he can get past the barrier. And suddenly Kara shows up, which also stole a parachute and jumped after us because she wanted us to go alone. And we were of course surprised because how did she get past the barrier without a crystal ring? But she also has one. She got the one from the Incan queen from the Incan gold ship. That had one. Oh, there was a close shot for Solar here on the Killer 6. Does he not have an herb anymore? Did he use it already?
I'm not sure. He may be planning on healing in between.
Maybe. So now Hulk is in the boss rush. Basically you have to fight every major boss again one time. First Castoth, and every boss has a little clue on it. Of course, they have they're stronger and have more HP. Like, no, I don't think they have more HP. You still deal. No, yeah, well, they have the same HP, but you deal more damage now.
Yeah, all bosses have 40 HP by default, so there's nowhere for it to go.
I think it's like Will deals 1 damage to bosses, Breeden 2, and
Shadow 3.
And Shadow 3.
So it feels like they have less HP.
Yeah. And that was the Viper fight.
These things is gratifying.
Yeah, the first 2 bosses, Castus and Viper, they have no RNG. Castus will always be a 1-cycle, of course, you're just too strong. Viper, you can just damage him to death. And, well, he's also pretty much a 1-cycle. The next 3 bosses, though, the vampires, the Sandfanger, and the refight of the Mummy Queen, they are pretty RNG heavy.
This vampire fight is where the aura glitch we were talking about earlier really comes in handy.
Yes. The difference in this fight is that the vampires actually have hitboxes now. Like in the first fight, they don't have hitboxes. I think, Fee, you explained it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, before you could stand in them, and now you can't.
Yeah. Now they have actual hitboxes. It's not only the fireball shield they have. Oh, that was a bad start for Hulk. Okay, she should die now. Oh, I didn't reach him with that aura anymore. That was unfortunate. The male vampire is really tricky. The female usually dies very, very fast. The male one can die really, really fast as well if he gives you really good patterns. But he can choose to go from one platform to whatever platform in the whole room. And if he always chooses to just cross you and not go near you, the fight can take longer than you would like to take. Also Hulk took quite a few hits here, which can be a problem later. Probably not, but...
He still has 2 herbs, I think, so he's...
Oh yeah, he also still has herbs, so he's actually set. Pretty good. So now, nice, he got 1 X cycle right away. That's exactly what you want. You want at least 1 X cycle here, because in 2 X cycles, in 2 complete X cycles, he dies. So if you would get 2 X right away, this would be the fastest fight possible. Nice, very nice fight from Hulk though. Pretty much perfect with 1 X cycle. Like the most perfect you can do out of it with 1 egg. Now you see, for example, Viper here, the real Viper helping us, since they're not really bad features. They were just brainwashed by the comet's light or something.
Every one of the bosses you see in this game was at one point, long ago, a person that was then forcibly changed by the light of the comet. Here in the tower, they're kind of regaining their sense of humanity and helping out at the last minute.
And so Hulk here having bad RNG, like he really, I don't know why, but lately everyone I see has bad starting RNG on the Mummy Queen in the refight. She always starts with bricks. Like when a fight starts, you have to listen to the sound of the game, and when you hear the ground shaking, she stays on the top, and that's the ceiling collide. And
on the plus side, almost every time I've seen her start with bricks, she usually goes 0 bad patterns on the second half of the fight.
Well, that would be nice, at least.
So and hopefully if that the happens, pattern continues.
You have to go up and hit her and jump down. While doing that, you also have a good chance of getting hit because of where Mummy Queen stands, and if you get bad brick patterns, a hit can happen fast. Okay, there is 1 bad cycle for Hulk.
Aw, dang it. my fault. I'm sorry.
And there is a second one. But he can do the nice swag kill now with the aura glitch. And that was basically the last dungeon for Hulk. There is a lot of cutscene, and he makes good use of his herb still. Solar, meanwhile, in the last room of the pyramids, where he actually has to make sure that he doesn't get hit more than one time. You can get hit one time because Mummy Queen deals like 12 or 14 damage, I think, and one of those orbs deal 6 or so. So that means you can get hit one time and still get another hit by Mummy Queen. But if you get hit a second time, you might be dead, or you will be dead on the first hit from Mummy Queen. And since he won't do a death warp here, since he wants to be on the top of the pyramid when he gets out of the room, he will stay at this HP. I mean, since you have to transform back into Shadow before entering the Mummy Queen, you can always go for a heal up if you want to. This can be about the pace. This can be still a very low 59 with the 3-cycle Gaia. With the 4-cycle Gaia, still something. Yeah, with the 4-cycle Gaia, still something between 59, 15, and 30. I don't know if this can still be 158. I don't think so. Like right now, he's about 10 seconds ahead of my PB.
No, I don't think it can 158, but it's...
No, I don't think so.
It could be close. We'll see what their Gaia has to say.
With a good and solid 3-cycle, it can be low 59, I think.
Shadow's now equipped with a quintet mainstay of final boss fights, the Firebird, which appears in almost every game that they make.
But it's only 45 seconds behind his PB. Wow, how bad was my Gaia? So the first phase of Dark Gaia is actually fighting the comets. You have to do a couple of cycles. I don't even know how many cycles. It's a couple. It's always the same. You hit the comets. As soon as you hit the comets, it spits out one of those green lasers, and they drop from the sky, and you can either dodge them or just aura and avoid them. Meanwhile. Meanwhile, Solar approaching Mummy Queen, but runs into the orbs and runs back to go heal. Okay, this time he makes it and entering the Mummy Queen fight. Meanwhile, Hulk on phase 2, Gaia. So basically how this works is Gaia sends those drops that fly randomly around the room and can maybe hit you or not. And also sometimes sending those electrocutes from the right and left side that you have to dodge with your shield attack. And randomly, after those shield dodges, Gaia can open up. And you can fit in if you're very lucky, and the Phoenix hits stuck Gaia on the first hit very late. Nice, very nice.
Oh wow!
Very nice 3-cycle, very fast 3-cycle.
Yeah, he got 4 and 3 shots in between cycles every time. So
GG Hulk. Only actually 38 seconds behind world record.
If you put this time on the leaderboard, it would be number 2.
Exactly.
So that is an incredible race time.
Second place.
Well, Hulk is a beast.
Also very nice. Well, the Deathless run, not very much went wrong. Basically, with the same Sandfanger fight, it would have been world record probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, very nice fight from Solar and Mummy Queen here. I think Solar withdraws from the race.
It looks like he might have stopped, yeah. Do we have time for him to finish if he wants to? Or to talk to the runners?
Better than GG Solar Cell as well. Very nice. It was just unfortunate about the vampires, really.
Yeah, really
it's not
good
your
job,
fault
man.
if you like, everyone knows how that is. When you die to vampires with 0 herbs, it's a spiral of death that is hard to escape from sometimes.
It's a rough fight. I'm really impressed that you just stuck it out like that and got quite far considering how much it set you back. Yeah, be sure to give the runners a follow. If that didn't convince you they deserve it, I don't know what will. Certainly we don't have time to watch the entire ending to this game because I think it's 35 minutes.
The credits of this game are really, really long. The ending and the credits. It's almost 1/3 of the whole run. I feel.
But this is the part of the game where if you wanted to cliff notes, having beaten the comet, return the path of time and evolution and whatnot to its natural state, the map turns back into our world map and resume the modern era, and some other stuff like that happens. Everybody loses their memories of everything that happened, and it's a happy ending. It echoes the very beginning of the game.
Pretty happy, yeah. It's a bit sad at first because Will's father tells Will and Kara that in the new world they will lose their memories and basically get reborn and they won't know each other anymore. But of course they love each other, and they promise that they will find each other again in the new world, whatever comes. And even if we don't see it yet, now at the very end of the credits, we see that they actually, all of them, like Lance, Eric, Neil, Kara, and Will, and Seth, of course, don't forget Seth, found together again in the school. And don't forget to be careful when you cross the street.
I still think it's a shame that Seth doesn't stay a giant fish.
Yeah,
I think that would make for a much better ending.
It's also like Riverson is one of the saddest things the translation did to this game. Like the original in Japanese would be Leviathan, and when the English translators read the word Leviathan, or like how the Japanese pronounce it, they say R's for else, as you know, and then it sounds like a rivers and rivers, and that's what they went with, Riverson. Is there a reason why Soul
What are you doing? Why are you killing him on repeat?
So let's see, do we have a schedule somewhere? There is a schedule. What comes next and when?
Looks like up next is going to be a Link to the Past randomizer.
Right, Legends of the Link to the Past randomizer with Lenofis and Metroid MST. Randomizer Key Sanity co-op.
So that should be fun, look forward to that.
In like 3 minutes, so I think we should slowly take off.
I think we probably should.
And wrap it up? Yep. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. That was La Hulk and Solar Cell. Very nice race. Just a bit unfortunate, the vampires. But still close until that point. Still very interesting after only 38 seconds of world record for La Hulk here. Follow the runners. They're amazing guys. And thank you everyone for the opportunity to commentate. Thank you, Fee. It was really nice commentating with you. And
I had a lot of fun. Thanks for helping out. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see at least some of you running. So later, take care.